Most people think honey is simple, golden, natural, better than sugar, but what if the honey sitting in your kitchen right now isn't really honey at all? Across the UK, investigations, lab tests, and even everyday consumers have started noticing something disturbing. Honey that never crystallizes. Honey that dissolves like syrup. Honey that behaves less like something made by bees and more like something made in a factory. And here's the problem: people don't buy honey just for sweetness. They buy it for gut health, for immunity, to replace refined sugar. If that honey has been diluted with cheap sugar syrups, you're not just being overcharged, you're being misled about what you're putting into your body. In this video, we're breaking down 8 UK honey brands that raise serious red flags, and 2 that are actually doing it right. No hype, no brand loyalty, just the reality behind what's in the jar. This is the food reality, and let's get into it. 1. Rouse Honey. What we uncovered about Britain's most trusted honey brand completely changes what that golden squeeze bottle really contains. Before journalists or regulators got involved, ordinary people were already suspicious. On r/beekeeping and r/UK food, Rouse comes up again and again. Not in praise, but in warning. Beekeepers explain that Rouse honey behaves nothing like real honey. It stays runny for months. It dissolves instantly in water. It never crystallizes. One beekeeper even put it bluntly, "That's not honey, that's just unhealthy syrup." Those suspicions weren't paranoia. They were later echoed by formal investigations. Rouse's mainstream products are labelled blend of non-EU honeys. According to the European Commission's From the Hives Coordinated Action, 2021 to 2022, blended non-EU honeys were the highest risk category for adulteration, with the majority of samples failing advanced authenticity screening. These tests don't rely on taste or texture. They use NMR and DNA profiling to detect rice, beet and corn syrups engineered to bypass older tests. Now, if that wasn't enough to stop you, which, the UK's consumer watchdog, specifically referenced Rouse Squeezy Clear Honey when explaining how low prices and vague sourcing correlate with adulteration risk. Here's the health issue no label mentions. Sugar syrups lack honey's enzymes, antioxidants, and antibacterial compounds. Instead, they behave like refined sugar, spiking blood glucose, feeding gut imbalance, and offering none of honey's protective effects. If you're buying Rouse for health, you may be doing the opposite. This next honey sits in millions of kitchens, and the tests suggest it may be little more than liquid sugar. 2. Tesco Clear Honey. Now let's go a couple of years back. In 2023 and 2024, samples of UK supermarket own brand honeys, including Tesco's, were tested by labs working with the Honey Authenticity Network using DNA and forensic profiling methods. These methods detect syrup adulteration even when pollen has been filtered out. Tesco's honey was among the supermarket samples classified as suspicious, meaning inconsistent with genuine honey. On Reddit, Tesco honey has a reputation, and it's not a good one. Threads on r/UK food and r/eat cheap and healthy. UK repeatedly warn people that Tesco Clear Honey tastes flat, runs like water, and acts exactly like glucose syrup. Users compare it side by side with local honey and notice something truly problematic. The Tesco jar dissolves instantly, never crystallizes, and leaves a sharp sugar aftertaste. That consumer instinct turned out to be right. These findings were reported by Which and later by The Guardian, which stated that the majority of supermarket honeys tested failed modern authenticity checks, while local beekeeper honeys passed. Tesco responded by acknowledging the issue and stating it was reviewing its testing processes. But here's the real concern. When honey is diluted with industrial sugar syrups, it stops being a functional food. Instead of supporting gut bacteria and immunity, it becomes another hidden source of ultra-processed sugar. The very thing many people buy honey to avoid. If you're replacing sugar with Tesco honey for health reasons, you may just be paying extra for the same metabolic damage. Now, if this is already making you rethink what's in your cupboard, hit like. It helps this reach people who actually care about what they eat. 3. Sainsbury's Clear Honey. Shoppers pay more expecting quality, but what this supermarket's honey actually shows in the lab is horrifying. Sainsbury's customers often believe they're making a safer, more thoughtful choice. However, when you jump onto community platforms like Reddit, you'll learn stories speaking of the product in stark contrast. On r/AskUK and r/UKFood, users regularly question why Sainsbury's clear honey behaves nothing like raw honey. Comments describe honey that never thickens, never clouds, and pours like syrup even in winter. Beekeepers in the comments are blunt. That's been stripped, filtered, and extended. Those concerns line up with formal testing. Sainsbury's own brand Clear Honey appeared among supermarket samples examined in investigations linked to the Honey Authenticity Network, with results reported by Which and The Guardian. Using advanced testing techniques, analysts found enzyme and sugar profiles inconsistent with genuine honey, indicating dilution or extension with syrups designed to evade older regulatory tests. Now, the creepy part is that the labelling tells you why this keeps happening. Blend of EU and non-EU honeys, no countries, no percentages, no way to trace origin. Now, a little precaution here is to note that the European Commission's Joint Research Centre has repeatedly warned that blended imports are the easiest channel for adulterated honey to enter the market. From a health perspective, this matters. Fake honey doesn't just lack benefits, it actively misleads. People use honey to soothe digestion, support immunity, even manage blood sugar more gently than refined sugar. Syrup-extended honey does none of that. It behaves like glucose, stresses the liver, and feeds inflammation. Sainsbury's brand promises care, but when it comes to honey, science suggests caution. 4. Asda Set Pure Honey. Let's start with the math because it already tells you everything. Asda's Set Honey sells at a price where real honey simply cannot exist. Not that it might struggle, it simply cannot. Beekeepers will tell you this straight. By the time genuine honey is produced, extracted, stored, transported, and packaged, there's a hard floor. Go below it and something else has entered the jar. Now layer the science on top. The European Commission Joint Research Centre has repeatedly flagged low-cost blended honeys as the most common entry point for sugar syrup adulteration. Rice syrup, beet syrup, corn syrup, all cheaper, all sweeter, all engineered to pass outdated tests. Then you get the consumer side. On r/UKFood, Asda honey is regularly described as flat, overly sweet, and basically glucose. People notice it doesn't crystallize properly. It melts instantly in hot drinks. It tastes sharp instead of floral. That matters for health. Syrup-extended honey isn't honey with fewer benefits. It's refined sugar in disguise. No enzymes, no antimicrobial properties, no gut-supporting compounds, just fast glucose that spikes blood sugar and feeds inflammation. If you're buying this to be healthier than using sugar, you've been quietly tricked. 5. Tiptree Honey, Wilkin & Sons. Tiptree is a respected English name. That's exactly why its honey often escapes scrutiny. Most people assume Tiptree honey is British. But if you read the label closely, many jars are marked packed in Tiptree or non-EU honey. That wording matters. It means the honey itself is imported, not produced in the UK. And the label doesn't have to tell you which country it came from. That lack of detail is where questions start. Over the past few years, multiple investigations across Europe and the UK have found that a large share of imported supermarket honey shows signs of adulteration, often with cheap sugar syrups like rice or corn. Some studies estimate that around 40% or more of retail honey samples raise authenticity concerns. These findings don't single out Tiptree. They point to a systemic issue with imported, blended honey. Consumers notice the difference before the headlines. Online reviews and UK food forums sometimes describe Tiptree honey as having a flat sweetness, a slightly syrupy texture, or a lack of aroma compared to local or single origin honey. That doesn't prove adulteration, but it does suggest heavy processing and blending, which often removes the enzymes and compounds people buy honey for. Tiptree's reputation isn't the issue. The issue is transparency. When origin isn't clearly stated, consumers can't verify quality, and imported blended honey carries the same risks no matter how trusted the brand name on the jar is. Heritage doesn't protect honey from modern supply chains. 6. Aldi Bramwell's honey. When honey is this cheap, stop asking, is it good? Start asking, what's been added? This stuff pours like syrup. Not thick, not grainy, just smooth, shiny and runny. like something you drizzle on pancakes, not something bees worked for. Beekeepers spotted it straight away. On r/beekeeping, Aldi honey isn't argued about, it's laughed at. One comment sums it up perfectly. At that price, it can't be honey. Bees don't work for Aldi wages. And here's where it gets real. In 2018, lab testing using a modern method called NMR flagged 2 Aldi Bramwell's honey samples as likely adulterated. That means the test picked up signs of added syrup. This was reported publicly and caused a lot of noise in the honey world. Later, a different older test said those samples were fine, which tells you something important. Some tests catch fake honey, some don't. That's the loophole. Now look at the label. Blended origins, no country listed, no way to trace it back to anything with wings, it's legal, but it tells you nothing. Health-wise, this isn't harmless. Syrup-heavy honey hits your blood sugar fast. No enzymes, no antibacterial benefits, no nutrition you bought honey for in the first place. Aldi Bramwell's isn't bad honey, it's cheap sugar pretending to be honey and your body knows the difference, even if the label doesn't. 7. Boots' own brand. Honey. Let's work this out together. Real honey changes over time, yes? It thickens, it crystallizes, it doesn't stay perfectly runny forever, yes? And when you drop real honey into tea, it takes a moment to dissolve. It doesn't vanish instantly, yes? Good, because those are the basics. Now take Boots' own brand honey. People started noticing the mismatch themselves. On UK food forums, shoppers say the same things again and again. The honey pours fast. It stays clear for months. It melts straight into hot drinks like sugar syrup. No clouding, no grains, no resistance. If we agree real honey doesn't behave like that, and we do, then the next question is obvious. What does behave like that? Cheap sugar syrups do. That's why modern honey testing exists in the first place, because honey can be diluted and still pass older checks. And here's the key point. Boots doesn't use a special medical-grade honey supply chain. Its honey is sourced the same way as supermarket honey. Bulk imports, blended origins, minimal traceability. Check the label. No country listed, no source, nothing you can verify. So, yes, it's sold in a pharmacy. Yes, it's labelled honey, but if it doesn't thicken, doesn't crystallize and dissolves like syrup, then by the most basic honey standards, it's not behaving like real honey. And authenticity isn't about where it's sold, it's about what it does when you open the jar. That's how you tell the difference. 8. Gales. Honey. Gales doesn't feel like a brand you should question. It feels like part of the furniture. It's the honey people grew up with. The jar that sat on the table without explanation. You didn't check labels back then. You didn't need to. Honey was honey. That's why the disappointment around Gales is so quiet. On UK food forums and beekeeping communities, people don't rage about it. They sound confused. It's not bad, they say. It's just different. Less smell, less flavour. Just sweetness where there used to be character. Beekeepers explain what that usually means. When a honey starts tasting flatter, more uniform, more predictable, it's not because bees changed, it's because sourcing did. Modern Gales honey comes from large-scale blended supplies, not small local producers. Different countries, different climates, all mixed together, filtered heavily, and standardized so every jar tastes exactly the same. That consistency is the giveaway. A real honey isn't consistent. It changes with seasons, with flowers, with weather. Uniform honey is engineered to behave, not harvested to reflect nature. Look at the label and you won't find clarity, no country breakdown, no percentages, nothing you can trace. Health-wise, this matters more than people think. Once honey is stripped of enzymes, pollen and antibacterial compounds, what's left is sweetness, not nourishment. Gales isn't lying to you loudly, it's changed quietly. And that's why people don't notice until they taste what real honey still feels like. If you want more breakdowns like this, no sponsors, no brand bias, subscribe to The Food Reality. We talk about what food labels don't. Actual honey number 1, Hilltop honey. After everything you've seen, the only fair question is this. How do you know when honey is actually real? You start with the label. Pick up a jar of Hilltop honey and turn it around. Instead of hiding behind a blend of EU and non-EU honeys, you'll find a traceability code printed directly on the jar. That code isn't decoration. You can scan it or enter it online and see where that specific jar came from. the country, the region, and the type of honey. That's not common. Most honeys don't let you check anything. Hilltop openly states that it sources honey from approved beekeeper partners across named countries, and that each batch is tracked through their supply chain. You may see countries like Argentina, Hungary, or New Zealand depending on the jar. Not hidden, not guessed, but shown when you scan the code. Why does that matter? Because honey fraud thrives on anonymity. When origin is vague, dilution is easy. When origin is traceable, it isn't. Hilltop also carries out in-house quality testing for freshness and heat damage. Checks designed to make sure the honey hasn't been over-processed. And they're a certified B Corp, meaning their transparency and claims are subject to third-party scrutiny. Now the part you feel at home. Hilltop honey crystallizes. It thickens. It smells like flowers. It varies slightly from jar to jar. Those are signs nothing has been stripped or padded out. It costs more because this is what honey costs when you can actually prove where it came from. Actual honey number 2, the London Honey Company. If Hilltop shows you how traceability works, the London Honey Company shows you how to remove doubt entirely. Start with the label. Every jar is clearly marked as 100% British honey. Not packed here, not blended here, produced here. That single phrase already cuts out the biggest fraud risk in the honey market: imported bulk blends. The London Honey Company sources its honey through a network of hundreds of UK beekeepers, and they say that openly. That means no global brokers, no anonymous imports, no mixing honey from 5 countries to hit a price point. British bees, British seasons, British supply chain. And that matters because UK-produced honey is subject to far tighter oversight than imported blends. You're not relying on paperwork from overseas processors. You're relying on domestic beekeeping. Now look at how the honey behaves. This honey crystallizes. It thickens in the jar. It smells floral when you open it. And it changes depending on the time of year. Spring honey tastes different from late summer honey because real honey reflects what bees actually collected. Uniform honey is engineered. Variation is natural. From a health perspective, this is what people think they're buying when they choose honey. Slower sugar absorption than refined sugar. Natural enzymes. Antibacterial activity. Those benefits don't survive heavy filtration or syrup dilution. The price tells the truth. British beekeeping is expensive. There's no shortcut and no syrup safety net. If you want certainty, not just reassurance, this is what it looks like in a jar. 60 seconds fake honey checklist. Here's how to spot fake or syrup-heavy honey in under a minute. First, read the label. If it says blend of EU and non-EU honeys, that's a red flag. It hides origin and traceability. Real honey names countries, sometimes even regions or beekeepers. Second, check the price. Genuine honey has a cost floor. If a jar is suspiciously cheap, the math doesn't work without syrup. Third, look at the texture. Real honey crystallizes over time. Syrup-heavy honey stays runny forever. Fourth, the water test. Drop honey into water without stirring. Real honey sinks and holds together. Fake honey dissolves quickly. Fifth, trust variation. Real honey changes by season. Uniform color, flavor, and texture year after year is not natural. These 5 checks won't make you a scientist, but they'll keep syrup out of your kitchen. Honey fraud isn't about one bad brand. It's about a system that rewards opacity and punishes transparency. The good news, you're not powerless. You know what real honey looks like. You know which labels to question. And you know which producers are actually willing to prove their claims. Food should support your health, not quietly undermine it. If this video helped you see your pantry differently, that's the goal here at The Food Reality. No fear, no hype, just facts. Thanks for watching. And take care of what you feed your body.